We are back. Welcome to 40 Day Wealth. Today we have a special guest, as always, but somebody who's very interesting in a space of the financial world that most people aren't aware of. Scott Offerman. He is in the industry of 1031 exchanges. So if you could start explaining, first of all, what is a 1031 exchange?
Okay. 1031 exchange, it's actually Section 1031 of the tax code. It's been around more than 100 years, and basically it allows individuals who are selling investment property, whether it's held personally in an LLC or an S Corp, C Corp, sell their property and defer all the gains. So they can defer the capital gains and the depreciation recapture. The IRS has set up guidelines. They typically have from the sale, long as they hire a third-party escrow agent, which is commonly known as an accommodator, right? They send the money from the closing to the accommodator. Then they have 45 days to identify their replacement property, and from the same date of sale, they have 180 days to replace and buy that property.
So, in other words, rather than having capital gains on your appreciation of real estate, all you have to do is you take it from one bucket to another bucket meaning real estate, one property to the next, do some paperwork, do some structuring, make sure that you use an accommodator, and all of a sudden you have what would otherwise be a significant tax liability. Now you deferred it, and you can defer it for as many exchanges as you want. In theory, or actually more in reality, a lot of people, I assume, they don't ever have to pay the tax because they pass it off to the next generation.
Yeah, so almost like I think a lot of people can really get their arms around this. When you move from one job to another, you can move your 401k from one 401k to another, or a rollover IRA. So the beauty with this is, let's say you're a business owner and you're now in year 20 of your depreciation schedule. When you do this rollover, the IRS deems that replacement property for tax purposes to be the same property. Mm-hmm. So now, the next year, you're in year 21. Right. So you just continue where you left off bookkeeping-wise, right? And we have a nice, cute saying in the industry, you're going to want to swap till you drop. Yeah. And so
swap till you drop. It's meaning for me, as an attorney that handles people, and they're mostly or primarily entrepreneurs and their wealth, one of the easiest legacy strategies is real estate, because especially down here in West Palm Beach, real estate that was $250,000 to $300,000 is selling way over $1 million. There's a lot of condos, townhouses downtown where you have a 5x return. And this could be your legacy for your children, tax-free, because when you die, your children inherit the cost basis. They get the stepped-up cost basis. So if it's purchased at $250,000 and you die, it's worth $1 million. The purchase price is equivalent to $1 million for the next generation. If they sell it, they have a zero tax liability.
Absolutely correct. One of the nice things that we see, the only way to really make the capital gains and depreciation recapture disappear is to die owning it and the heirs get the step up. So, but, you want to keep deferring. And so I specialize in problems that happen during the 1031 exchange with certain unique products.
So this show is about getting into the mindset of an entrepreneur. So if you could go briefly into your background, you're in finance and you started your own financial company in this sector. You could have done anything. You could have chosen to sell or provide mutual funds or stocks, bonds, annuities, things of that nature. But you chose to focus strictly or completely in 1031s. And I think you still do some opportunity zone funds as well, correct?
That's correct.
So how did you get into this space?
Well, I had two technology startup companies, and I realized that I had like a 4-year attention span for partners. Mm-hmm. And so I started saying to myself, what what industry can I go into where I can partner and work with people but not have to recreate myself if the relationships didn't work out.
Right.
So I was like, okay, let me get my securities licenses, let me get my insurance licenses, and I started doing estate planning, life insurance trusts, things of that nature, and sure enough, sometimes you step into it and then you turn around and go, my God. So, one of the problems that, when you do a lot of financial planning, but more specifically estate planning, is, your clients aren't too happy that second year. They're paying that life insurance bill that's funding their retirement. And so, sure enough, it was my father that caused this to happen. He was a paint manufacturer in the Bronx. Like a lot of business owners, he reached retirement age. He sold his book of business to a competitor, Mercury Paint in Brooklyn, and then he was left with 40,000 square feet in the Bronx, down by Amtrak, and a little over close to 30,000 of yard space. And he started leasing out the space, and he had nothing but problems, right? And I'm like, Dad, you're not a very good landlord. Maybe you should sell the property. And he's like, well, I don't want to pay the tax. And I go, well, there's something called Section 1031. He goes, but then what do I do next? And I'm like, well, let me look into it. And then I found, I was actually very annoyed with myself that I didn't already know about this, something called Delaware Statutory Trusts.
DSTs.
DSTs, right. And I was like, oh my, this is the perfect solution for my father because they're 1031 exchange compatible. They're run by these very large real estate investment firms. The properties are typically like 50 million or greater. And for a small entrepreneur like my father, he can get a taste of the much bigger, larger properties and buy a small sliver of each one.
Right, and then receive income as per the schedule, whether it be monthly, quarterly, annually, depending on what you want.
Correct. Typically, they pay monthly most of the product out there. So we broke it up into like 5 or 6 different smaller tranches. So we created a diversified portfolio for my father. And then my book of business, all my bad insurance clients were great DST clients. And, I did a couple of very large property deals for some of my clients. And what started to happen is everyone started saying thank you to me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to focus solely on this and become an expert.
Yeah, it's one of the few professions that people constantly say thank you. Being a lawyer, I mean, every now and then it's you fix someone's problem, they're like, thank you. But then they get the bill.
Well, when you save them 30, 40% on the sale price, so you get a double thank you. It's very nice.
It's actually a wonderful spot to be in, especially if they don't know you existed beforehand. So you just save them 30 or 40% of their gain.
Yeah, no, and part of building wealth is preservation of capital. And so the 1031 exchange winds up a great tool in terms of building the base. So you sell the property. So let's say you bought it for a couple of $100,000. You get an offer, $1.2 million. And if you do a 1031 exchange, well, that next property you're going into is based on $1.2 million instead of the original $100,000. And depending on the way you're investing, if you get good appreciation, and one of the fun parts about the 1031 exchange business is in the past you're dealing with the winners, the people who were fortunate enough, either smart enough or lucky, depending on the situation, to have a lot of appreciation in their property.
Right.
And so our job is to protect that principal, provide income for the individual investor, and then hopefully give them some nice appreciation on the back end when the property rolls over again.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a show about entrepreneurship and the mind of an entrepreneur. So one of the things that we do week to week when we interview is we find some common ground. One of the first things that we notice is that there's a desire to not only just make money, you can make money elsewhere, but to have financial freedom. I think that's the one common ground our clients have. And if you can describe, like, out of all things, why you chose to be an entrepreneur rather than receive a salary from somebody, I think that our audience would really, like to know. Each and every week, well, one of these weeks, we'll probably synthesize all the common and the differences between our guests. But it's always interesting to me because I always find it's pretty much the same mentality.
Yeah, I probably have a problem with authority. Is one thing. My father and I are probably cut from such a similar cloth that we bang heads so often. I realized that it was much better for me to either through sales or starting my own company to strike out on my own, be my own boss, be accountable for myself. Every morning when I get up, I can always find the person responsible for everything that's going on in my life when I look in the mirror and I start brushing my teeth.
Yes,
So
it's the one thing entrepreneurship provides or requires accountability, because at the end of the day, it's your money. It's your success or failure.
absolutely.
And how long did it take for you to really see the a light through the tunnel that this is going to be the industry for me? It's not only putting food on my family's plate, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I really can't see any other space I would like to be in.
Okay. I got to say that the first 3 deals that I did in the DSTs, my father's, but 2 clients after that, when I saw the commission, and it was a good income, but topped right with the thank yous at the end. I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing anything else. Kind of just when I told you, I stopped. I don't do mutual funds. I don't do insurance. I don't do anything. I stay in my little square box, my lane, because just that first 2 or 3 sales, I was like, I'm not doing anything else. It was like the light went off. I'm like, it turned my practice around. That year I made more money than all my years. I didn't have another year that came close to my first year in the DST business. And then I like being an expert in my craft.
And how do you balance work life with personal life, vacation times? Because these are the struggles that until you start really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, it's really hard to figure out when you could even afford to go on vacation. For me, I'm at a stage where I can go on vacation, but my phone is always still there. And that's how I define success. I have these affirmations every morning I read. Well, I should start a new affirmation to read the affirmations every single morning, but I try. And one of the things is to have enough freedom to not be able to read an email or respond to a text for 2 weeks. That's the epitome of my success. That's when I know I've made it. I'm not there yet. What about you?
Well, it's funny that you say that. Right around the same time, I started creating affirmations for myself. And I took it to a little bit of an extreme. I recorded myself. It was 15 minutes. I put it on an endless loop. And when I went to sleep tonight,
Oh, that's great.
at night, I put it on, and sometimes it would fall off. I'd find it on the floor. But as I teased with my wife, everything that I said was going to come true came true, except for having a body of a 19-year-old. So,
Well, you're just looking at the wrong 19-year-olds. You're looking at the ones that are athletes, right?
I wish I could change that. But so the affirmations really pushed me through. But coming to the freedom of the business, so the one thing I needed to work out was with my wife in terms of saying, I can work from anywhere. I can be anywhere. However, I need to answer the cell phone because that's the office. I need a laptop and a cell phone. And for the most part, as I've been building this business, I've restricted my vacations to 1 or 2 hours within the same time zone, because when I go to the West Coast, it's there's a little pressure. The calls start coming in at 6 a.m. I like a schedule, so we do a lot of the Caribbean and stuff like that, and I just say, as long as you can tolerate listening to me blab on the phone, this is the type of so far it's been really good. And of course, since the beginning, we've put some staff, and I've got the next key is great people. Okay, great people behind you. I got great people behind me.
And that's the thing. It's when you want to invest, you always think about investing in certain things: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate. But one of the first things I realized as an entrepreneur, the biggest investment, the best return you can have is the one you can control, which is your business. And once you have your business up and running and you have the money working for you where it's generating the income, because at first it's an investment. It's an investment not only in the business, it's an investment in you because you believe in yourself. But once you have all of that working for you, I think the next spot to really create the foundation of your wealth, as much as I don't find it as attractive as other investments, but because of historical returns, longevity, the tax code, multi-generational wealth tax-free through 1031 exchanges, there is absolutely I'm convinced, I would say this with 100% conviction, there is no better return on your investment in real estate because the tax code allows you to work with the system that we have. Whereas in other, you purchase a mutual fund, you could acquire someone else's tax liability on top of your own. And there's no guarantees. And, when you look at dollars for dollars, there's no better long-term plan to create a legacy than with 1031s in real estate, which we're now at the second part of the show, which is about legacy, so it was a good transition. But before we get there, I just want to always thank one of our partners in Julio Gonzalez with Engineer Tax Services. And if it wasn't for Engineer Tax Services, I probably wouldn't be so proficient on 1031 exchanges as well. Julio is the founder of Engineer Tax Strategies. What he did best was introduce me to various different areas of wealth, not only cost segregation. He's the cost segregation guru and the most interesting man in tax, right? But what he introduced me to was the 1031 exchange, in thinking, let's work together. We have the clients, he has the relationship with CPAs. But the best thing you can do is spread the knowledge. So I just wanted to thank Julio for really bringing it to my attention and adding it to what we do with clients, because as a lawyer for my clients, what I want to do is be the solution, the one-stop solution for all of their entrepreneur needs, their wealth needs, protecting their wealth, growing their wealth. But one of the most important is the savings of taxes. You work extremely hard, at least my clients do, all the time. It's a lifestyle. It's not a 9 to 5. And you have this big, elephant on your back, not even a monkey on your back, an elephant on your back, which is the IRS. And if you follow the tax code, the IRS could actually be your friend. You can invest in things that are really beneficial for your legacy. And if you could share what your legacy is, what you want to leave this earth being remembered by. If somebody had to read your eulogy and say, you know what, he may have not been the best here, but this is why this world is a better place, because, Scott, you were in it.
I think if I were to want people to know about me and my legacy, first and foremost is for my kids. Obviously, I want them to feel and understand and know that I was always around. I was there for them. Number one, obviously, with my wife, having a good marriage, and then for my clients, that I really cared about their business. And every time I sit in front of, the clients ask me, how do you make a judgment call here on which product to go into? And I go, it's real simple. I just pretend you're my dad sitting across the table, and I'm going to make decisions based on, what I would put my father or my mother into. And so I want to know that, people say he was successful in business, he cared about his family, and basically I want my clients to feel that I've done a really good job for them. And, for me, that would be more than enough. I'm on some board of, the Washington Heights Y. So I have a little theme. Sometimes it's so simple. It's like Cheers. I want to do my charity where everybody knows my name, where it's family. So they do incredible things, and so I'm proud of that as well.
Yeah, the Y here too. It's an exceptional place for kids to, go into sports rather than into their gadgets left to their own accord, right?
Yeah.
And my kids especially, they're always participating there. My daughter after school, she goes to the Y, gives us some freedom before, we have to, parent, and it's just a great organization for most basic things you don't think of until you have children. Right? The little things, the team sports, the competition, the people who help support the organization, and the role models that they've become. And then, many sports I'm okay in, a few I'm really good at. One sport I'm really bad in is basketball, so I can't teach my kids, I could teach them how to shoot a ball, but it never doesn't find its way in the basket. What good am I, right? You see the consequence, you see the outcome right away in basketball. But, it's funny, I laugh at this, but it's the legacy that you bring. It's the memories that you'll have with your kids, and it's the organization, to me, that's really near to my heart because I see the benefit. It's one of those things you truly see the benefit right away. And when we talk about legacy planning, you are the legacy guru because you are creating tax-free legacies for people. And rather than taking from other assets, which they may hold and then liquidate real estate, you make this clear. I don't want to use the word crazy or foolish, but from a financial perspective, it could look crazy or foolish when you can compare what is the best asset for your legacy. Life insurance is always known as that, right? But life insurance, the downside of life insurance is you have to die to seek the benefit, to reap the benefit.
Yes.
Whereas in real estate, you get to step up, you get all the appreciation, tax-free. It's the only other asset category just about that you get tax-free transfer. Most other ones, you just pay the tax at the time of death. And on top of that, the estate tax. This could also avoid estate tax if done correctly, which is a huge, huge deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, one of the other things that most people who have investment real estate should consider as part of their estate planning are revocable trusts. Because, if you have real estate in other states and you pass, you could get, your heirs could get dragged into probating your probating in other states. So
that's a great point because I just dealt with that. Unfortunately, a client of mine, he passed away some time ago, and I use the word some time ago because we're dealing with the probate. We're finally at the end of it. He owned real estate in various other states, so we had to open an estate, an ancillary probate in 3 other states. And then we dealt with the issue of who owns the real estate in the first place because he acquired one of the real estate holdings from his mother. His mother acquired it from her aunt, but they never transferred the deeds. So they paid the taxes and everything, but they just continued as if it was one holding. And if they put that in a revocable trust, somebody at some point would have. It took us 8 months at least. And this was in New York, which is incredibly difficult because you can't go just to the local courthouse. You have to find, even for the death certificate. It was an absolute nightmare. And we say the only ones who win are the lawyers in these cases because, but, when you do fair pricing, it's not, not a winning solution for the lawyers either. But, it's a nightmare. So it's a great point you make for legacy planning, especially in real estate, tax-free real estate, because you don't have to purchase the property. We're here today in Florida. We don't have to purchase the property in Florida. You can purchase it anywhere. What about overseas? Do you have clients who are purchasing it in foreign countries?
Well, the 1031 exchange, right, there's two ways you can use it. If you sell property here in the U.S., you have to buy property here in the U.S. to do a 1031 exchange. If you sell a property, let's say you have a property in Italy, right, and you're selling it, you are allowed to do a 1031 exchange, but you have to replace it with another foreign property.
So they don't want that money patriated?
That's the way the tax code was structured. Sometimes, when you get involved in things, it's like, well, it's what's considered an accredited investor. Well, on an individual, it's $1 million, and on a irrevocable trust, it's $5 million or greater than $5 million. Sometimes they draw this line in the sand, and you're just like, okay, a little strange, but you abide by the rules.
Yeah, wow. So, but you could also do 1031 exchanges in foreign countries. Do you do that, or is that a very small piece?
That's a very small piece. It's logistically, it can be very challenging because you've got, what's the value of the property, and then if you go to another country with exchange rates, so very complicated, very involved. I don't really get involved in that because also my products that I, represent are all products within the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't really deal with that. I would defer that one out to some of the other people I work with, specifically the qualified intermediaries that have experience dealing with the foreign 1031 exchanges.
And let's clarify, we're using a business term, qualified intermediaries.
Those are the escrow agents that hold, it needs to be a third party, part of the Section 1031. You need to have a third party hold the funds from your sale on your behalf so you don't take constructive receipt of the money. Taking constructive receipt triggers the capital gains. So there are banks, there are title companies that have separate divisions, right, that act as accommodators. And
So is an accommodator the same thing as a qualified intermediary?
So
or a
accommodator,
QI?
qualified intermediary, QI.
Yeah, because earlier in the show you mentioned the word
Oh, yeah,
accommodator,
yeah.
so I just want to clarify any ambiguities here.
Sometimes you get into your jargon.
The one thing is I did forget, and we have a few minutes left, is opportunity zones. So when prior administration, when Trump was in office, he created these opportunity zones. So all of these real estate in areas that were up and coming, that were historically low income, they're given these tax incentives to purchase property, and they're called opportunity zones. With that being said, a lot of the challenge you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, with 1031s, is that you have a window. And sometimes people pass that window. So the next option is an opportunity zone. So if you could just, highlight that.
Okay, so basically, think of it almost like a development fund. Most of the OZs out there, opportunity zones, funds that are used as an investment vehicle. Each state picked the zip codes that they felt needed help, and that was submitted as part of where you can invest. So the funds go to those particular zip codes in each state looking for opportunity. And so what they allow you to do is, so let's say you sold a property for $3 million and your cost basis or your adjusted cost basis is $2 million and you have $1 million of appreciation.
So like $400,000 potentially, otherwise
Potential
that would go
tax.
to the IRS, right?
So basically, you're allowed to take that $1 million of profit right? And you invest it into the opportunity zone. And you're able to defer the tax out. And previously, because the clock's been running so long on this, you get like a 10% discount. But now you're deferring the tax to like 2026, 2027, right? And so what they also do is, as the development project comes online and starts having rents, you are forever free of the capital gains on that development when they sell it, on all the appreciation on that. So you're going to pay your tax, postpone the tax.
On the $1 million.
On the $1 million, but anything that comes of the opportunity zone is then tax-free.
So if, for just simple terms, you have $1 million tax deferral for 10 years, and let's say after 10 years, that $1 million appreciation gain is worth $1.5 million. So now the $500,000 is tax-free.
Correct.
So that the gain can theoretically pay the liability and
Right,
then some.
and typically the funds have a refinance option for when the tax is due to give the investor. So they get a certain amount of the development, and all developers do this. When they reach a certain stage and the project has a higher value because there's infrastructure now, they go out, they refinance the amount so the investors can pay the tax at that moment.
Wow,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of time for this segment. The
Okay.
following segment is always my favorite segment. It's the hot seat.
Oh,
I'm gonna put you
okay,
on the
great.
hot seat, and we kind of cheated a little bit, one of the questions, but the rest of those are going to be completely spontaneous, so stay tuned. As I always say, this is my favorite segment of the show. It's the hot seat. So I'm going to just ask you questions. You know maybe one or two of them, but you probably forgot them by now. So, and then at the end, we'll have you sign off, and hopefully it will be inspirational and maybe a little educational. And we'll start right now. So, your childhood celebrity crush.
Celebrity crush. Oh, wow. Let's see. I guess, Farrah Fawcett was always, if I had to pick a girlfriend, Farrah Fawcett would be one. Charlie's Angels was always entertaining.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not a bad choice.
Yeah.
Mine was, I think it was the first one, if I recall, was Kim Cattrall in the movie Mannequin. Kim Cattrall was later on in Sex and the City, but she was the mannequin. I liked her when she wasn't the mannequin, when she was
Right.
the woman, but that was, I think, my first crush. So I don't think I've ever shared that with anybody, because it's not about me, it's about you. Person you would trade places for one day.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
When? When his
Right around like his first couple movies, right around Predator.
Yeah.
Back then, I just loved the '80s action movies. It
Yeah.
was just a lot of fun.
It was always the same script, just blowing up everything.
That's right. And I do, as an entrepreneur, how can you not like a bodybuilder that came from Austria, comes to the United States and winds up being governor of a state. And if he was born and then moved back to Austria and then here, maybe he would have ran for president.
Yeah. Yeah.
But impressive.
Absolutely. And a lot of good movies, but the only one Schwarzenegger movie I didn't really enjoy was anything that was like outside his role as the action hero. Like him in Twins was the exception. That was good. But
He was good.
wasn't he Kindergarten Cop? That's the one I was trying to think. That was the horrible.
Oh.
There's one line in there that you quote, but we don't need to go in there.
Yeah.
Your guilty pleasure. What is your guilty pleasure?
I'm a big chocolate fiend, so and I like my dark chocolate cold, so it's in the refrigerator, and it's like the butter caramel, the all natural. When I eat that, I'm just like,
So you're a dark chocolate over milk chocolate.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
Dark
I don't
chocolate.
understand why the milk chocolate exists. To me, it's kind of like, how do we water down and increase the profit on the chocolate? We'll just put milk in it. I think it's an American thing. I don't think in Europe they put milk chocolate. I think it's like, I mean, I granted I like milk and coffee, but not in chocolate.
No, dark chocolate is definitely my little.
Yeah, a little amaretto with dark chocolate. Oh, amazing. Biggest risk you've ever took?
Biggest risk. I would have to say I've like a high tolerance for risk as an entrepreneur. Everything you do is a risk. I probably, when I was younger, didn't give risk much thought, but definitely trying to think of which one would be my biggest risk. But going off and going into finance with pretty much limited guardrails and just saying, okay, no partners, no this. I did have support of different organizations, but that's different. Yeah, that was probably the biggest risk.
Yeah, I'm going to deviate from the schedule for a second, but one of the things that I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs or people who aren't entrepreneurs yet or at the beginning stage, there's a lot of sleepless nights and thinking of self-doubt. Did you have the self-doubt, like, am I crazy? I could go get a job here and make X amount of dollars, or were you always in that, like, I'm going to take this risk, but I'm just, balls to the wall, I'm just going to make it happen?
I can't stand gambling, and the only thing I want to gamble on is myself.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that because
Yeah.
I can't stand. I don't. I'm really good at donating money to the casinos. I don't call it gambling.
Oh,
And
I I agree with that. It's the house is going to make the money, so
Yeah.
I'd much rather, if I'm going to bet on something, it's always let's bet on me.
I'm a statistics guy, so I look at the numbers and just never gonna win in the casinos. At least not me. I have friends who do, and I can't believe I witnessed it, but not me. Best compliment you've ever got?
Going back to that first year, after I finished the biggest deal and I was overjoyed in my first year, the client called back and said, listen, we wanted to thank you so much. And then I had another individual where I won't go into the specific details. The second best one is I recommended structuring a deal in a certain way where one of the partners could be bought out, and it was family. Mm-hmm. And the sibling called me up 8 months later and go, you changed my life.
Yeah.
So, sometimes siblings don't get along, and those two stick out in my mind really, really, really hard.
Yeah, it's like the greatest, one of the greatest feelings.
Oh, that was on business, but probably the best one is fourth grade. My son wrote a paper that said, my dad's great. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I know the feeling. It's like when my daughter, she says to me, I said to her, what do you want for her birthday? And it's always technology. It's always the latest iPhone, iPad. I mean, there's not an electronic gadget that this kid has been, without.
Right. They all have it.
And she says to me, well, it's just you and me. Out of anything, I want to go on a vacation, just you and me, preferably in a cruise. And I said, how can you say no? I said, she's turned 12. And I know what it's like at 14, 15, 16. She's probably going to ask for the same trip without me. So that just, really melted my heart, because anything she can do, she wants to, spend the time with me. And we did. I talk about planning all the time. You apparently can't book cruises in season 10 days out. Otherwise, you get stuck on a 7-day cruise, not a 4-day cruise.
Right.
And I'm the youngest adult there by 30 years, but we had an exceptional time. So, but I'll remember that. I'll remember how I felt for the rest of my life. So, what never fails to make you laugh?
What fails to never make me laugh? On the business side, unfortunately, it's kind of painful at the same time. People call up and say, I want to do a 1031 exchange. And I go, okay, when are you closed? Oh, I already closed. I go, where's the money? In my account. And I'm just like, oh, the poor person. You kind of laugh in pain about it because if they had any proper people helping them, the money would be sitting with the escrow agent instead of having that failed. So that, and I think that one is up there. I just kind of, just like.
Yeah. It's weird because if you do a 401k rollover, you could have it 60-day exemption, right? Or any other retirement rollover.
Yeah.
You would think the same way in real estate, but nope. Different code, different rules, different, and you can't apply common sense to one and not apply it to the other. It just doesn't.
Every time, yeah. No, and it's like, yeah, sorry, it's over.
Yeah. Worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's easy. And it wasn't me directly. One of my clients' CPAs said to him, what are you bothering with all this stuff? Just pay the tax. I got to tell you, it still makes me angry today, just thinking about it.
Did the client take the advice and pay the tax?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Is the client with the CPA?
Unfortunately, yes. I told them to fire the CPA right away. I just couldn't believe, I couldn't believe the crazy, let them go out and earn, 1.6 million of giving away the money.
No, that's the challenge you have with CPAs. Unfortunately, I work with great CPAs, but the relationships that I have, there's a huge difference between tax planning and tax reporting. And you'll find, to my surprise, the bigger the firms, you think they would master the tax planning. They don't. And here's another plug for Julio, but fortunately, he's like Ben and Jerry's with 42 flavors of tax strategies. But the secret is you need to speak with a professional in advance and be proactive, because in this space of taxation, there's no reaction, it's proaction. I guess that's the word, proaction, but being proactive. Because if you wait, it's too late.
And it's painful.
Yeah. And the worst piece of advice, I think, or worst thing I think ever, when people tell me, shoulda, coulda, woulda. And now, if you only knew you would have had $240,000 in your pocket that you're writing to the IRS. It's the worst. Something you wish you were better at.
Probably, I wish I had some musical talent. Yeah, nothing. There's nothing. I can't sing, I can't hold a tune, I can't play an instrument.
What about karaoke? Do you do it though?
I can't even remember the lines to a song. I can probably tell you about what I do, in my sleep by now.
Yeah.
But if I hear a song 100 times, I just can't remember the words. I love the tune. I'm happy to hear the song, but it's like, what did they say?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I'm sort of like that, or I'll hear the wrong lyrics, and I'll listen to country music only with my kids because it's easy. I don't have to explain anything except pickup truck and beer. There's a lot worse things to explain than pickup trucks and beer, right? And they're correcting me on the lyrics of the songs that I'm not forcing them. They like to listen to it. But now that they have no gadgets, they're punished for a little while. My daughter used her mom's phone to text me and said, what's your favorite 5 country songs? She's now trying to get in good graces, and they were playing it in the car on the way to the Renaissance Fair, which was the best thing you could ever have, is not to have your kids go to the Renaissance Fair, but not be at the Renaissance Fair.
I hear you.
Who would you like to be stranded on a desert island with?
Honey, it's you, my wife. Separate and aside from my wife, I would want like a MacGyver type person.
Yeah.
If I was on an island, someone who's, who's the gentleman at the crocodile hunter at the
Oh,
Port
yeah,
High?
Paul Dundee?
One of those.
Oh,
Well, no. The guy who.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. Anyway, so someone
Or
who.
Grill, something Grill.
Yes,
Bear Grylls, is that the guy's name?
One of
Yeah.
those real nature persons, because my father was into property work, the whole thing, and I probably have like PS, stress disorder syndrome
PTSD,
from
yeah.
PTSD, whatever it is, from doing all the property work. So I live in an apartment now,
Yeah.
and so yeah, stranded island, but. I wouldn't mind a stranded island either. I'm a big beach guy, so.
I remember during COVID, we lived in Highland Beach, right next to the ocean. But on the intercoastal side, there was an island, a stranded island, a desert island that you couldn't live on. It's just sand, a little maybe like quarter of an acre of property. But we would always take our boats there, and my son's name is Ellis, so we'd call it Ellis Island.
Ellis Island, that's great.
Spent a lot of time during COVID there. It was nice. So I guess I would answer it with my kids because I had such a great pleasure. But the lawyer in me would ask the question, how far is the island from any place else? Is it too remote to swim?
Well, you said stranded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To find that term. Last question. Tell me something we do not know about you.
I wear it mostly on my sleeve. I think, in this setting, I think you see a lot of that. You don't need a roadmap with me, but I'm always I get angry when clients come to me and say, I'm thinking about paying the tax. I really don't understand. It boggles my mind. Maybe it's because of the career. Same anger with that CPA about saying pay the tax. Why would you ever, if it's part of the tax code, why wouldn't you preserve your wealth? So I get angry. So that's probably my biggest flaw is like I sit there and I can't believe what I'm listening to.
Well, we actually ran out of time. This is overtime, but I promise you conclude the show. It's now your show. You sign off.
For everyone that needs help, come and see me. Everyone that's thinking about paying the tax, don't bother show up. Scott Offerman.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
No problem.